let's get started. A lot went down this week for us to talk about, but let's start with you effectively backdooring yourself right out of the game. Do you have any regrets, or are you happy overall with your performance?
1000% happy. I mean, this was an outcome we knew probably would happen. I'm no longer in that crazy loony bin. And, hopefully my plan is still in effect and still working. And I knew that I would be a casualty quite possibly of it, but I couldn't see Carson go home, especially the only thing I regret is that I'm not there for Shayna.
Yeah. Yeah. So Todrick and Miesha have been getting a very arrogant edit. Were they really sweeping through the house as if they'd already won? Is that what you wanted to flip the house so bad?
Yep, completely. That's exactly why I wanted. I mean, they were in the bathroom already talking about who was going to vote for them on when it was time to vote for who wins Big Brother. And they were like, well, this person's got you and this person's got me. And I love Miesha, I really do. And that's part of who she is. Like she's a fighter. She's got to be, tough. I think on Todrick's part, it was a little bit, not warranted. And, he's kind of playing a game that I could have never played. But, for the most part, it is this whole heir apparent. And, and I think the problem was I also didn't know where I sat in this so-called alliance that we had.
Julie even seemed surprised by Todrick's farewell message to you, which was a little shady. You laughed it off, but after sitting with it for a night, are you still okay with it?
I mean, I'm okay with it. It's how he wants to play. It's who he is. I mean, earlier that day, he told me that, I'm a horrible father and I'm going to embarrass my child and, things like that. So I didn't put it past him. I'm sorry he feels that way. It hurts to know that, someone could play the game like that. But in the end, I went in hopefully trying to be honest and sincere about everything. And I walked out the door, hopefully trying to be honest and sincere, and he even came after me for that, saying, don't try to play this high and mighty, honest game. You're a dirty player and a piece of crap and all this. And, and all that stuff hurt. But in the end, I kept my focus. I didn't let the house break me. I didn't let anybody in there break me because, I know outside those walls, if that were on the street and he said something like that, it would be a lot different, but it isn't. And I don't like people that play victims all the time. I understand that he's let us know many, many times that he's been bullied and for him being gay or for him being Black. And I never saw any of that coming in. If anything, it made me feel more comfortable. But, I don't like when people use that as a bargaining chip or in the game, and especially accusing me of being some stereotypical straight white guy that's like this evil person.
It seems a lot of the players don't really know how the game works. To be honest, as a super fan, does that make it frustrating?
It makes the game a lot harder to traverse because you're playing with people that you're trying to explain things. I mean, when I came up with this plan, I went back and I probably shouldn't have said anything. I should have just told Shayna. But when I came up with this plan, I told Carson and Cynthia. Miss Cynthia was still like angry at me, and she's like, I don't trust you. And I was like, what? You don't trust me? I'm telling you, I'm probably going to go on the block for one of you. I'm probably going to go home for one of you. How I'm sacrificing my entire game. What is there not to trust? Like, I'm giving it all up for you. What's there not to trust? And it was just, it was the whole, I think, not understanding it enough that, that kind of hurt when I'm going out on this giant limb and, knowing darn well that I'll probably be sitting here doing these interviews this morning and for their game, to make sure that they make it far, to make sure I flip this house and stir it up. And I was trying to get the other side to play too. Cause like you said, nobody was really, they were all just floating along, waiting for Todrick and Miesha to pick them off one by one. And that wasn't fair.
So now this week, Kattan also self-eliminated. How surprised were you when that happened? And have you checked in with him now that you've also been eliminated?
I have not checked with him yet. I've heard that he's doing good. he flew his girlfriend out and she's here with him. And I just know that that house was not conducive for the situation he was in.
Yeah.
And it really had me worried about him as a person. And it's hard to step out of the game and really be concerned, because I think he was so confused by the game. He didn't know what was game and what was real. And, I tried to be as helpful as I can without pushing myself on him, or without really scaring him into thinking it was a gameplay or something. So I was just trying to be there for him, and I'm glad he's okay. And it wasn't really surprising that he left.
So viewers also saw a confrontation go down between Cynthia and Todd.
Uh-huh.
What was that like to witness? And was that the most heated moment you did witness?
I didn't witness it. I was in the bathroom. I was chilling in the bathroom, and I heard yelling going on. I had Miesha's red thing on my back or something to kind of help pain in the back. And
Yeah.
I heard yelling going on. I thought it was joking, because everybody yells at all times. Lamar yells at 4 o'clock in the morning like it's normal. So it was just yelling to me. And it wasn't until Todd came in really huffed up and still screaming and like, F this or whatever, that I was like, wait, this is real. Like, what's going on? So I really didn't know exactly what happened. But then when I found out it was over a vote from the very first eviction, it was kind of crazy.
Yeah. That's wild that you were the bathroom. You didn't think it was real because you were just
Yeah.
yelling.
Yeah. Just so you guys know, that craziness is all the time. So when something like that happens, it's like, oh, somebody's getting weird again. It's just like, it is what it is. You almost just fall back to sleep or whatever you're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah. It doesn't even phase you. So now those with the live feeds have seen Carson Kressley win the HOH competition. Does that make you feel better about your sacrifice?
One, a million times, that's exactly why I did what I did. And it's funny because I was still outside, decomposing from, or decompressing, not decomposing, decompressing from the game. And, all the emotions are going through my head, and I'm like thinking what a jerk I am because, somebody told me that I'm a horrible dad and a horrible human being, and you can't trust people like me and things like that. And all these things were going through my head, and I'm like, that was the dumbest thing ever. I saved myself for Carson, loving Carson, loving everything about him. I can honestly tell you, the Miesha, Tate, Carson, Shayna, Cynthia. It's hard to read on Todd and Lamar and Todrick, but those people are exactly who you think they are. They are sweet, kind, just really good people. That's why I wanted to flip everything to save them, knowing that it could cost me my game. And then eventually, when I couldn't answer Miesha, knowing that it pretty much cost me my game, but also knowing that Carson would be there to play on, and he was a good competitor, and he loved being in there. And, I sacrificed for him. And then when I heard that he won, I was the happiest. I was happier than when I won my HOH in the house, because that's why I did it.
Awesome. Awesome. And last question. So now Teddy said someone got a false positive COVID test and was pulled from the house and heavily insinuated it was you. Can you talk about that at all?
We can talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're allowed. You're allowed.
Yeah, it was me. Like it freaked me out. I was downstairs.
Holy.
I'd just given Todrick a hug, and we were getting COVID tests like all the time. And
Yeah.
me and Mariah were the only two in the house that have never had COVID. So they called me to the diary room, and I was still down in the bathroom, kind of joking around with Todrick or whatever. And then they called me again, like not even 2 minutes later, or not even like 30 seconds later. And then they called me again, and I was like, what? Why are they like, because normally they'll call us, and if you kind of lollygag, like maybe 3 or 4 minutes, they'll call you again. But it was like 3 times in like a minute and a half. So I went upstairs, and I get up there, and I'm like, okay, I'm freaking out. Is everything okay? And when they tell me, just sit there, you're going to get a phone call.
Oh,
Like my heart just went out through my, feet, because I was like, is my wife okay? Is my kid okay? Is my family okay? And I was so delusional at that point and scared. I think I asked if the president was okay. And if either way, I was like, well, why would they call me if the president wasn't okay?
Yeah.
But then they said, you got a positive on on the COVID test. And I was like, first of all, I feel fine. Second of all, I haven't had COVID. And third of all, I've been in this bubble for, 2 weeks now. There's no way I could have COVID. So they did a rapid test right there. It came back negative. I ended up having to leave the house for a minute. They did 2 more tests. They came back negative and found out it was just a false positive.